Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody.
Assalamualaikum, sir.
Uh,
Assalamualaikum, ma'am.
uh,
Good morning, sir. Good morning, ma'am.
Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning, everyone.
Good morning,
Good
everyone.
morning, sir. Good morning, ma'am.
So, are we going to have the recap of the previous class on leadership?
Yes, sir.
Aman.
Yes, sir. Mohammad Aman.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Today I will present recap of previous class, which was about the topic leadership. So, what is leadership? Leadership is a process of encouraging and helping to work others towards the achievement of goals. Concept of leadership could be better understood by two Chinese parables published in Harvard Business Review. The first parable was titled as Sound of the Forest, which I will be discussing in brief. In the first parable, there was a king. He had a son. He wanted his son to become a good ruler. So his father took him to the enlightened masters. The king requested the master to teach him the art of becoming a good ruler. One day, the master assigned the task of hearing the various sound of forest. The prince went to the forest and spent substantial amount of time in the forest, and he returned back to the forest, come to the master and said he had listened various sound in the forest. So the prince replied he listened to the chirping of birds, rolling of lions, sound of blowing of winds, etc. The master said these are not enough sound. There are some more sound in the forest. You must go and listen as commanded by the master. The prince went to the forest again. One morning, he was sitting in deep contemplation in the forest. Then he started listening to the very faint sound which he had never heard before. Now he realized that this must be the sound that my master wanted me to listen. He went back to his master and said he could listen to the sound of blowing of winds, opening of flower bird, and listening to the sun warming the earth. And he could also listen to the unheard. After listening these things, the master was very happy and said, the listening to the unheard is necessary quality of a good leader. The key learning from the above parable, we get a good leader closely listen to the heart of people, understands their unexpressed feelings and pains, understands when something is needed, understands the true needs of its citizens. The second parable discussed was river and water. In this parable, there was a king who recently succeeded the throne. After a few days, he realized that he is not able to administer his kingdom properly, so he decided to go to the learned master to seek wisdom. His dilemma, he told his dilemma to the master, but the master said nothing about it but asked him to follow. They went deep into the forest where a river was flowing. The master set out the fire. They spent the whole night watching the fire burning, but at the morning, when fire no longer danced, the master said, reflect on the nature of fire as it was before us last night. It was strong and powerful. Its flame kept upward as they danced in fright. Nobody, even a wild beast, could have matched its mighty force. With ease, it could have conquered all that lays in its path. In contrast, consider the river. It starts as a small stream in the distant mountains. Sometimes it flows slowly, sometimes it flows quickly. It always sails downward and penetrates every crack of the earth. We can touch river without any fear because of its humble nature. On the other hand, what is left with mighty fire? Only a handful of ashes. The fire is so strong that it not only destroys all that lies in its path, but eventually consumes its own strength. It is not so with the river. It flows, grows deeper, broader, even more powerful during the journey to the ocean, providing life and sustenance to all. The key learning from above parable we get: in order to thrive, a good leader must be humble in nature, should not be in high pride or arrogant. A good leader should be adaptable according to need of his citizen and environment. Now coming to another topic. Karan, change the slide. Some laws of power were discussed from the book. 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. The first law: get others to do work for you, but always take the credit. In a good leader must use the wisdom, knowledge of others people to further his own cause. Not only such assistance saves his valuable time and energy, but it enhances his efficiency. In the end, his helper will be forgotten and he will be remembered. Never do yourself what others can do for you. The best example of this is Taj Mahal. The Taj Mahal was built by 20,000 laborers, but Shah Jahan is only known for Taj Mahal. Now coming to the second law, which is plan all the way to the end. The ending is everything. Plan must be made in taking into account all the possible consequences, obstacles that may hinder you to achieve your goals. By planning, you will be prepared that comes in your way. You can easily achieve your goals. The best example is a game of chess in which you plan every move ahead to defeat your opponent. Now coming to third law, dependent on you. To maintain your independence, you must always be needed and wanted. The more you are relied on others, the more you freedom you have. Make people depend on you for their own, for their happiness and prosperity. Never teach them enough so that may become independent. Now, another law: pose as a friend, work as a spy. Knowing about your rival is critical. Be friendly with them to gather valuable information that will keep you a step ahead and informed. That's all from my side. Now Karan will continue. Thank you everyone.
Good morning, everyone. To continue from where Amal left, the next law of power is keep others in suspended terror. A good leader is the one who is always unpredictable and does not tell his next move to anybody. Like Sir told the story of a snake who wanted to be good, so he decided that he would not bite anybody, and he conveyed the same to his master. But after some time, he realized that the terror of him of children was being reduced. So he went back to his master and told the same. So his master replied that I did tell you to not bite, but didn't tell you to lose your terror or stop being unpredictable. The next law of power is crush your enemy totally. A good leader is the one who does not give second chance to his opponent when he is in pole position. Avoid the unhappy and the unlucky. A good leader is the one who always analyzes everything before taking action. Like if a man is drowning, a good leader will not directly jump to save him. He would always analyze whether it is beneficial for him to save the person or not. Don't commit anything to anyone. Don't commit to everyone. A good leader is the one who always listens to everyone but does not promise anything to anyone. Moving on to the next topic, job of a leader. There are three jobs of a leader: making things happen, taking steps, and influencing solving problems. To perform these jobs, a leader must know one of the two leadership models: being a part of the crowd, be apart from the crowd. And in my opinion, being a part of the crowd is quite appropriate because you get different ideas when you collaborate with others. Coming back to the jobs of a leader, the first job of a leader
Karan,
is
Karan, can you open your video, please?
sir. It is not open. Sorry, so sorry, sir. Just a second. I'm so sorry, sir.
Yes, now you.
Okay. So the first job of a leader is to make things happen. A good leader is the one who always makes things happen. For example, Sir told about M.N. Faruqi sir, who gave computers to the university. But if you think that the computerization came was easy, so then you are wrong, because it was opposed by many, saying that they would lose their job because of this. But the authority assured them that they wouldn't lose their job and they would be trained. The second job, the second job of a leader is to take stand in tense situation. A good leader is the one who always takes stands in tense situation. When M.N. Faruqi sir came as a vice chancellor at the time when the Baburi Masjid demolition happened, There was huge unrest in the whole country, and so was in AMU. So the central government ordered to close AMU, but Sir resisted by saying that who would take the responsibility of the students on their way back home? The third job of a leader is solving problems. A good leader is the one who solves problems by collaborating with others and taking others' opinion. Moving on, there are two leadership approaches: a hard approach and a soft approach. A leader with a hard approach is quite dominant. He's apart from the crowd, rules with head, competes with others. He's passionate about his work and uses the approach of getting things done. The second approach is soft approach, and a leader with a soft approach searches for common ground, is a part of the crowd, rules with head, collaborate with others, is compassionate, and uses the approach of giving. I would like to conclude by saying the following couple. Leadership is a slow process. A good leader is the one who always analyzes everything before taking any action. Leadership is a midwifery. A good leader is the one who always encourages others to do the work and does not take credit. Leadership as a shepherd. A good leader is the one who always takes others with himself and always makes sure that no one is left behind. And in the end, not taking oneself too seriously. A good leader is the one who is selfless and does not think that everything is happening because of him. Thank you. That concludes the presentation.
I think before I comment on the presentation, let me ask Aman himself, how does he feel after this presentation? What is his own assessment of his performance? And then he'll come back to Karan and we'll have the same question to him also. Aman, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What is your assessment of your performance? Where you did well, and what else you could have done?
Sir, I have covered all the concept, and sir, I could have more better fluent in speaking.
Fluency was a concern.
Yes, sir.
Content-wise, I think you were okay. You have
Yes,
covered
sir.
all the points. But we have earlier also discussed that storytelling is an art.
Yes, sir.
So the points have already been covered in the class, but the way you deliver it, that makes the difference. And in that, modulations, they play a very important role.
Okay, sir.
What do we mean by modulations? अगर हम बहुत सारी जबान में कहें तो जबान के उतार चढ़ाव.
Yes, sir.
तो अगर हम बहुत सपाट लहजे में अपनी बात कहेंगे तो it will not reach out to people that way, isn't it? So in fact, this has been my request to all my students that they should become good storytellers. And when you learn to narrate a story in an interesting and engaging manner, then we learn the art of presentation also. So, Aman, in your case, this art you have to pick up, and naturally this we pick up through command over language also. We need to have good command over language. That's the basic. We
Okay,
need
sir.
to know the idea well. So as such, your ideas were, you were well aware of the ideas that were discussed. But I think language was not supporting you enough,
Okay, sir.
and the expression also. Naturally, it depends on the comfort level that we have with the language. And what about you, Karan?
Sir, I get quite nervous while speaking in front of others, so I think that would have reflected in my voice.
Even in the online mode or on the offline?
No, sir. I am a bit camera shy, so that's why I get nervous in front of camera.
And when have you delivered offline presentations earlier? Some occasions
No,
when
sir.
you did?
Not. Yes, sir. In school, but not in AMU and not in college.
So your articulation was okay. I mean, there was no major issue with your articulation. You have a reasonably good comfort level with the language. The only thing is that throw yourself into these situations
Yes, sir. I will try.
more often.
Yes,
How do we become an expert swimmer?
sir. By learning and by trying it out again and again.
Again, there's actually no shortcut for it. Likewise for presentation. In fact, I'm told that Chinese, if they want to develop the person as a swimmer, right from the age 3, they would just, put him in water and let him, find his or her way out of that pond. So he struggles, and then, that becomes a part of the instinct once we develop abilities in that manner. But it is also a fact that हमारे उस्ताद कहते थे कि जब जागे तभी सवेरा. So this applies to language skills also. Whenever we feel this, we have this realization that we need to develop our language. We can do it. We can do it. So you have reasonably good command over language. Once you develop that language finesse, then you will be having far more comfort level with this situation.
Sure, sir. I'll work on it. Yeah.
Okay, okay, correct.
Thank you, sir.
Now, anybody else would like to contribute or reflect, because that day we hardly had time for discussion. Especially, Karan, can you display that concluding slide again?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Leadership as midwifery, or leadership as shepherd, and leadership is a slow process. We said slow boring of hard bolts. That was the expression that we used from Aristotle's ideas. So slow boring of hard bolts. So would somebody like to comment on these ideas which were discussed as a kind of concluding ideas? In addition to Karan and Oman, who have already reflected on this.
Sir, not about the concluding comments, but there was this point that was discussed in the presentation. It was that a leader must get work done by others, but should always take the credit. But isn't that morally unjust to do so?
Actually, we are discussing it in a very amoral manner. We are not assigning any value judgment. We just presented two world views that exist in the world. And I think we have already made that point that this world has seen Hitler. It has also seen a Mandela. Isn't it? So we are not saying that this model is good and this model is bad. And that is why we, rather than, making a judgment right in the beginning, we discussed what leaders are called upon, isn't it? And then we discuss, although they reverse the order, actually, the major part of a leader's job is to solve problems. Major part of the leader solving problems. And when that we solve problems, then we work with people, not work away, maintaining a distance, which is what is the approach of the first model. So the laws are proposed by Robert Greene. I am not responsible for it. That is his ideas. We may agree with it, we may disagree with it. But this is a human phenomena that the best way to get, people say the best way to get cheated is to think yourself clever than others. So हम लोग थोड़ा सा देसी टाइप की एक मिसाल भी देते हैं कि सियाना कौवा जो है वो आखिर में गू खाता है, तो जो बहुत सियाना बनता है वो आखिर में लूज करता है. But this view exists and people have been using others to further their own cause. That also is a fact, isn't it? So it is for you to agree or disagree with it. I will not be like that.
Sir,
Yes, somebody else was.
Sir, is there something
Yes.
like good leader or bad leader? I mean, can a dictator be a leader? Can we categorize in these two different terms, good or bad leader? Leadership can be good, bad, but what about leader, sir?
What about?
Leader. Sir, example, can a dictator be a leader? I mean, he's leading a country or an organization on its own. So that's
My question is, some people, they come on stage of life and they influence the course of events. But who survives? And how people remember the leader after he is gone, that is more important than what the leader does during his lifetime. And in fact, the ultimate test of a good leader is, a leader is one who creates more leaders. And we discussed the example of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan in this regard. The beauty of his leadership style was that he left behind an institution which was only a college, and it was his dream that it would be converted into a university. In fact, Justice Mahmood, when he was making a presentation on his behalf, he made this point very clear, that our idea is to establish a university. It's only a college, it is only a stage. And Sir Syed could not see that dream being fulfilled during his lifetime. But ultimately, after 22 years of his passing away, the college became a university. So I think that's a greater test of leadership. Are you able to pass on the baton to others who can then carry it forward? That's more important. So
But sir, if my apologies to interrupt, if the ultimate test of leadership is to create more leaders, then aren't we kind of contradicting the point that a leader must keep people dependent on him or her instead of making them independent?
exactly, that is why I think my undercurrent of the entire lecture was the model one, which we can call the male model of. In fact, in some literature, this is called the male model of leadership, the hard approach. And our undercurrent of the lecture, if you have been able to read between the lines, that we were rejecting model one and we were in favor of model two, a model which says leadership is all about compassion, all about care for others, winning over the heart of others, giving more than getting, ruling over their hearts, not just their head. So how do we create that kind of engagement? And That to me is the ultimate test of a good leader. What kind
Right,
of
sir. Understood.
what kind of ideas do they leave behind? Isn't it? That is where we recited that couplet कि उसके प्याले में जहर था ही नहीं वरना सुकरात मर गया होता. Isn't it? So Socrates may die physically, but he will always be there because his ideas survive. So that to me is the ultimate. Sir, we still say that the founder of the university was Sir Syed, isn't it? What kind of legacy you leave behind? A legacy of a person who, gives back to the world more than what he has got from it. Sir Syed, when he died, when he passed away, and he did not die in his own home, there was some problem in the family. And वो नाराज होकर घर से चले गए थे, and he passed away at a friend's house. And the saying goes that people started collecting fund for his burial. He had no money, not even such things that could be used for his burial. But he survives. That to me is the ultimate test of a leader. And one more thing, leadership is all about actions. We will, when we talk about theories of leadership, we'll revisit this point. But let me share with you one very instructive incident from Islamic history. And how many of you, I don't know, especially the Muslim students of the class, they know about a treaty which we call Treaty of Hudaybiyah. Have you heard of it? What was that treaty?
Yes, sir.
Any background that you may have for this?
Sir, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, sir, signed a treaty with the Quraysh when he was going to Makkah, but he returned.
Actually, because this is a very, very instructive incident on leadership. That is why I'm sharing it with you. Actually, the situation was like this. Some of you who may not be aware of these elements, this aspect of Islamic history, let me share with you a brief background so that you can appreciate the idea which I'm going to share with you. Actually, Prophet faced a lot of resistance during the early phase of his preachings. Especially in Makkah, the situation was not very favorable for him. It was a very hostile situation. And ultimately, the hostility increased to such an extent that in the 6th year of his declaration of his prophethood, he had to migrate from Makkah to Medina. And he shifted to Medina. We call it, in the Islamic history, we call it Hijrat. So he migrated to Medina, and he found a fertile ground there, and ultimately he was able to establish a kind of rudimentary state of those who were adhering to his, or who were following his faith. And in the 6th, and when he was firmly established, one day he saw in his dream that he is divinely ordained to go back to Makkah. And Makkah, as you know, is the place where you have House of Allah, we call it Baitullah, isn't it? Where people go to perform Hajj even now, isn't it? So Prophet was ordained, divinely ordained in his dream that you visit Makkah and visit that Baitullah, House of Allah, and perform Umrah, as it is called. When this religious pilgrimage is performed in a particular month, it is called Hajj. Otherwise, it is Umrah. You can visit it anytime. So he was divinely ordained by, he saw it in his dreams that he needs to visit House of Allah. And he shared this dream with his companions, and people were very excited after listening to this, and they wanted to go back to Makkah. And roughly around 1400 companions of Prophet, they desired that once he performs this religious pilgrimage, they will accompany him on this mission. So this is strong 1400 contingent of 1400 people. They moved from Medina to Makkah to perform this pilgrimage. Now, for Quraysh, the Makkans, it was a threat. It was a threat in the sense that if they allow entry, they will spread, the world will spread that now Prophet is firmly established, and they are acceding to his entry to Makkah, from where he has been banished once, or has been asked to move out once. So they were also in a fix. And there is a Arab custom that when somebody comes for religious pilgrimage, that is considered to be a very sacred. It was a part of, it was not Islamic tradition only, it was an Arab custom that anybody who comes for religious pilgrimage will be allowed an entry. So now they were in a fix that if they attack the Islamic contingent, it would spread a bad word about them in the entire Arabian continent, that they attacked people who were unarmed and who had come on a religious mission only. So they were in a fix what to do. So what they tried out many methods. One method was that they tried to provoke the contingent, Islamic contingent, that and so that they can justify their attack as a measure in self-defense. That they have. But the Islamic contingent, they exercised extreme restraint and they avoided all provocations. And finally, when they were just near Makkah, they send one of their emissary to Makkans to negotiate and tell them that they are unarmed. They just want to visit House of Allah. That's all. That is their mission, and kindly allow them. Then, but as I said, they were also in a fix, and they did not want to lose face on that account. So they sent one of their emissary to the Islamic contingent, and this place where they were stationed just outside the Makkah, that place is called Hudaybiyah. So that is why this is called the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. So this fellow came, Suhail bin Umro was his name, and he came, and he was considered to be a very hard negotiator. And he said, okay, we can allow you to visit, but not this year. This year you will have to go back, and next year we will allow you. And then some other conditions which were sort of agreed to were also, not in favor of Islamic contingent. Apparently, it looked as if the Islamic contingent has bowed down in front of them and agreed to some humiliating conditions. For example, one of the conditions was that if a person leaves Makkah without the permission of his guardian and runs away to Medina, he would be returned back. But the converse was not true. Now this was a very, very unfair clause, and Islamic contingent was not taking it kindly, because in fact one person came who had embraced Islam in Makkah, and he was facing persecution on that account, and he said, kindly allow me to join you, that will save me from the hardships that I am facing in Makkah. But as per the clause of the treaty, this was not possible. And the breaking point of this treaty came when finally all the terms and conditions were agreed. And as is that even now when we have a memorandum of understanding, both the parties signed. So the signatures were being put. And from Islamic contingent side, Hazrat Ali, the fourth who then became the Caliph of Islam, he was writing the treaty. He was a very learned man. So he was asked to write the treaty, and he wrote the treaty. And finally, out of his love and affection and veneration for the Prophet, he wrote his name and wrote Rasulullah. That is, he is the Prophet of Allah. And Makkans objected. He said, this is our main point of difference. We don't consider him Prophet. If we would have considered him Prophet, then we would have just accepted his commands. It's a treaty which is being signed between two heads of the states, that's all. So what you write his name and his father's name, as is the Arab custom. So remove this Rasulullah. Now, Hazrat Ali was, fired. He said, how can I write, how can I remove this? And he refused. He said, no, I will not. And the entire contingent was, deep down they were struggling, what is happening? But Prophet, even in that situation, said, what they are saying has a point. And I agree. I concede this point. Because I cannot force them to accept my prophethood. So better we remove this word Rasulullah from the treaty. And Hazrat Ali said, I just can't do it. So Prophet took pen from his hand and said, "Kahan likha hai?" He told me. And he himself erased that. And that was a real, dampener for the entire contingent. And after the treaty was signed, the Prophet said, treat as if your religious pilgrimage is over. We are going back as per the treaty, and we'll come back next year. And he ordained all the people, 1400 odd people, and all the sacrifices and all that are to be performed. And we are not visiting Baitullah, and we are going back. And this was the first time in the history of the Prophet that Prophet, after the treaty was signed, he commanded thrice to his companions. He said and repeated his commands, and the commands were: treat as if the pilgrimage is over, remove your ceremonial attire, perform all the sacrifices, and despite his repeating this command 3 times, nobody moved. And naturally, the Prophet was very, very disturbed. And in that disturbed state, he came back to his tent. And there his wife was there. And naturally, she saw him in a dejected state. And ladies have their own sense of wisdom. Don't lose your heart. In fact, it is out of the veneration for you that they are hurt by this treaty. So he said, but what should I do? This is a very strange situation that my own followers did not follow my command, despite my repeating it 3 times. He said, don't lose heart. You go out and you perform whatever religious rites are to be performed. And based on her advice, he came out and he took out his ceremonial attire and performed sacrifices that were to be performed, got his head shaved. Now, when Prophet started doing it himself, bit by bit, and they also followed. So, why I have shared this is this important landmark event in the history, Islamic history. To me, there could be many learnings. One is what his strategy teachers teach, the concept of a strategic retreat. Sometimes it is better to take a back seat rather than, fight it out. In fact, this contingent was so fired by this mission that they were ready to sacrifice everything. But if they would have fought, it would have led to a lot of bloodshed. And Prophet avoided that. And that also is a fact that, in fact, this strategic retreat proved so decisive in the history that within 2 years after this, it led to conquest of Makkah. And there were a host of developments which I will share with you, or we may not share with you at this juncture because they are not relevant at this point of time. But what I want to draw a very important lesson from this, a lesson which I have drawn from this, that words may fail. Even Prophet's words may fail, but his actions never fail. When he started doing what he wanted to do, others followed. When he was only commanding, people did not come out. So to me, this is a very important lesson of leadership. Ultimately, a good leader is one who leads by example, who leads by his actions, not merely by his words. And especially words which are phony, which are not shared with deep commitment, those words don't make an impact. And that is why demagogues come, they deliver powerful speeches, and then they go back into history and nobody remembers them. They may be able to arouse emotions for the time being, but they don't lead or leave a lasting impact on humanity. Leadership is not oratory. Leadership is not talking beautiful words. Words which are backed by actions. Only they survive. That is one of the points about leadership. Any reflections on these three concepts which I discussed? Leadership as midwifery.
Sir,
Or leader.
leadership as a midwifery might mean that as a midwife, when as she takes care of a woman while she is pregnant and provides every medical aid. In the same way, leader is also like a midwife in certain aspects, as he also provides nurturing and comfort to the people who are in need and strive them to go further in their work and excel in that.
Mhm. In fact, Arma was talking about this taking the cadet. Does a midwife takes the cadet? Does she
No,
ever
sir.
say
Usually they do that as a service.
this is more as a service? Ultimately, she says, "This is your baby."
Yes, yes, sir.
When she hands over the child to the baby, to the mother, does she say, "This is my child"? Because I have helped in the birth of this? She would always say, "This is your child."
Sir, I think the point leadership as shepherds actually means as shepherds lead a group of a herd of sheep or a herd of cattle, whatever it is. They always lead them in groups without leaving one out. And if a sheep or a cattle strays out of the way, then they always make sure to bring them back in that group. So I think leadership as shepherds means taking everyone together along the way.
I think I will come back to the shepherd point slightly later, but I was discussing about midwifery first, and I was making this point that the midwife, a good midwife, will never take the credit. Ultimately, her job is to empower the mother so much that she is able to deliver the child naturally and effortlessly. It's not that it's not a painful process, it is a painful process. But the midwife pops up the mother so much that she feels strong enough that she can do it. So, to me, this is a very powerful. I read it in a Chinese book on leadership, and when I read it, I found it so worthy advice on leadership. That your job is to assist others in delivering what they are capable of delivering. They may not know it, they may not have the initial faith, but you have to instill that faith in them that they can do it. And if they have a problem, I'm there to assist you, but it is your job. So that is why somebody made interesting point that a manager's presence is felt, absence is felt. So if the midwife is around, the mother will be comfortable that somebody is there. Maybe she is ignored. Everybody is focused on the mother. But if the midwife is not around, then that absence will be felt. That there will be no one to assist if some problem occurs. So please keep this thing also in mind. That's a very powerful idea that I've read somewhere, that leaders' absence is felt. जब तक वो होते हैं तो लगता है कि ये तो हैं ही, they may be taken for granted at times. सर सैयद की अहमियत का भी लोगों को एहसास शायद उनके जाने के बाद हुआ, कैसे शख्स को हमने लूज कर दिया. And what about this? Now we can come to this point to which Arma was saying, leadership as that of the role of a charwaha, the shepherd. Does a charwaha leads from the front always?
No, sir. Sir, you mentioned a point in the previous class where you said that leadership and collaboration goes hand in hand with together, like each other. They have to be together. So this point, leadership as shepherd, that they have to take each and every person in an organization, and they have to make other people do the work in an efficient manner. So a leader actually leads from the back.
In fact, he may lead from all kind of ways. All, he may lead from sideways sometimes. He may lead from front also initially, maybe for some time. Maybe, for example, he knows where you can get good meadows, good taraga, where graze. Isn't it? So maybe he'll show the way initially, but then once they are going in that direction, maybe he has to keep a watch on them. That's all. Because generally, this point is very, I think, pertinent. A shepherd flock. Is it so that all the flock is his own? Generally, shepherds, they collect flock from others. People who own the flocks, they give him to a shepherd for tending. So they are only trustees of that flock. They are not the owners of that flock. And in fact, I was reading in a book, Urdu book, and this fellow asked the shepherd, he said कि अगर मैं एक एनिमल लूज कर देता हूँ तो फिर मेरी पूरे महीने की इनकम खत्म है, क्योंकि I have to compensate. So losing, because the owner have made a commitment that I'll take care of. Think of it in a leadership kind of situation. Now we have leaders who excel in this art of dispensing with their workers. At a drop of the head, the person would be shunted out. He is no good to fit in the team. But there is a story about Matsushita. Matsushita was the founder of this company called National Panasonic of Japan. And he was the creator of this legacy of the world. I mean, we remember this company as a pioneering company in electronics. And Matsushita was the founder of that. And when Matsushita had almost relinquished the control of his enterprise, and he was in a non-executive role, he was 90 plus at that point of time, that the company started facing troubles. And the products were not selling. Unlike now we equate Japan with quality goods, in 40s, it was not the situation. And so their products were not selling. And the executive of who were responsible for the running at that point of time, they realized that there is no need for production because we have enough inventory already and it is not selling. So we have to dispense with these workers who are part of the production team. And but because Matsushita was alive and they thought this is an important decision, so let us go and consult him also. And they went to Matsushita and said, sir, this is the situation, the company is in red and we have to dispense with the workers. So Matsushita became very somber and he said, I am at the last leg of my life. And anytime I may go. Do you want me to die with a bad conscience? And he said, these are the workers whom I hired when I needed them. And do you think this would be morally right for me to agree to a decision that now they are no longer required. And he said, sorry, I can't agree. And I want to die with a good conscience. So think of any other way other than dispensing with it. I can't die with this guilt. Naturally, this was such a passionate plea that they could not ignore the advice and they came back. But they don't know what to do because the company was not doing well. They were not in a position to pay. So they thought that let us discuss it with the workers themselves, and they called them and they said, okay, this is the situation. We are sinking and we don't need production. What to do with you? And this is the chairman's concern. And he wants that no one should leave the company or should be asked to leave the company. So they volunteered. They said, this is chairman's concern. What we will do is, your problem is marketing, selling this product. You already have enough inventory. So you can deploy us in the marketing stream. We will go out and we'll try to sell these products. And all these operations people, then they moved into marketing and they started meeting customers, selling them, trying to sell them. And then for the first time, they came in contact with customers and how their product is being viewed by the customer. And what were the complaints that they had in the products. And they came back much wiser after that. Because this was their first, earlier they had that, maybe false sense of pride that they are producing something marvelous. But when they actually got the feedback of the customers, they realized that actually their product was not all that good. It was on many accounts a very shoddy product. So this one decision of Matsushita not to dispense with the workers became a kind of tool for the revitalization of the company. And National Panasonic revived and survived and thrived even now. It is there. So that's also leadership. Now we have leaders who think that this person is, who excel in this art of making judgments, passing judgments. He's no good. He's no good. Will not fit into the team. Remove him. In fact, 90s and 20s, we have had we have had managers who thrived in this art of cost cutting through showing people pink slips, what is called. But a leader who is like a shepherd will not let that happen, because for him the flock is important. Every member of the flock is important. Then a leader who is a shepherd will also have this realization that every member of the flock is not same. देखिए, हम लोग जब देखते हैं कभी कभी बकरियों का या इनका झुंड जाता है, some goats are very playful, for example. In fact, some play more than eat. So agar if leader is in a hurry while they are acting playfully and not having enough, he has to ensure that they have taken enough meal so that they don't go back hungry. In fact, a good leader is one who will be aware of each and every member of the flock, their unique characteristics, when they are more playful, when they actually perform, what they are good at, what they are not that good at. That is a good shepherd. Don't you think that a leader should also have these characteristics? Be aware of each and every member of the flock.
Sir, definitely. Like a leader should know each and every member of his or her group. So, in the same way, for example, I remember when we used to be in school, teachers tried to remember, the names of all the students in the class. So, I think this is also one of the examples of a good leadership. Like teachers try
Very,
to interact with them.
very true. In fact, we have had a marvelous corporate leader in India. His name was Rusi Modi. He was one of the leader of the Tata clan, if we can call that a clan. So JRD had such stalwarts in his team. Darbari Seth was one. Rusi Modi was a celebrated leader, the one who built Tisco. And he was an Oxford graduate only. He was not trained in management. In fact, when a young recruit would be hired for him, he would say that you are not management trainee, you are Modi trainee. So I will train you how to be a manager. And it is said about Rusi Modi that there were around 40,000 people in Tisco then, and Rusi Modi knew each and every one of them by name. All 40,000. And not only the employees, the family, sometimes he would know even the name of the family members. So when there would be family gatherings, he would call by name. That's also, leader like a shepherd. What is this point of taking oneself not too seriously?
Sir, this might mean that a leader is quite comfortable with his abilities. He knows his weakness too, and he's not insecure. Like if he is also not taking the credit of the work, he's aware that it was me who was actually behind all this. But he's very quite comfortable in giving all that away and you know forward lining certain other employees to take the credit, and he is quite comfortable in pushing others rather than just keeping himself always in the front line.
So your point, Palaksh, is that he is a secure person, isn't it? And he is not
Yes, sir.
threatened by the presence. I think this is only one aspect of what we are talking about, not taking oneself too seriously. Can we have some more inputs on this from the class?
So it can also be interpreted in a way that a leader is putting a lot of efforts in getting things done and getting work done by others, but at the same and he might achieve success. But after achieving success, he must make sure that he doesn't get arrogant about it. He doesn't pride himself about it, and he should stay humble and grounded in order to make sure that he is able to put the same efforts again in order to achieve success all over again.
You are now on the point. Actually, one of the major problems with leaders is, एक शेर कहते हैं ना कि कुछ तो होते हैं मोहब्बत में जुनून के आसार, और कुछ लोग भी दीवाना बना देते हैं. तो
वाह वाह.
अक्सर ऐसा होता है कि जब कोई लीडर होता है तो 100 लोग ताली बजाने वाले भी होते हैं उसके पीछे, और हर बात पे तारीफ. अरे साहब, माई बाप आप ही की वजह से काम चल रहा है, आप नहीं होंगे तो क्या होगा. तो sometimes leaders develop this heightened sense of self importance कि दुनिया का कारोबार उनकी वजह से चल रहा है, और अगर वो चले गए तो बड़ी प्रॉब्लम. अभी हमारे एक दोस्त हैं, कंट्रोलर थे वो, मौलाना आज़ाद नेशनल ओपन यूनिवर्सिटी जो है उर्दू की हैदराबाद में. तो यहाँ एजुकेशन के प्रोफेसर हैं वहाँ वो. हिज सर्विसेज वर हायर्ड एंड ही वाज द कंट्रोलर. तो वो एक वाकया बता रहे थे कि कंट्रोलर की मीट हो रही थी कंट्रोलर्स की सेंट्रल यूनिवर्सिटीज के. तो ही वाज आल्सो देयर एंड देयर वर अदर कलीग्स हु वर मैनेजिंग द एडमिशन एंड एग्जामिनेशन प्रोसेस इन अदर यूनिवर्सिटीज. कहने लगे कि ये अपने साथ अपने टीम के जो कोर लोग थे उनको ले गए थे, सारी फाइलें वगैरह उनके पास थी. तो कहते एक और जो कंट्रोलर थे उनके पहले तो ये लगा कि इनके गले में कुछ मालाएं टंगी हुई हैं. तो ये क्या है, कहते ये सब वो हैं हमारी पेन ड्राइव्स. ये सारी पेन ड्राइव आप लेके चलते हैं कि नहीं, हाँ ये इसमें एडमिशन का डेटा है, इसमें एग्जामिनेशन का डेटा है, इसमें. So he started counting all the pen drives which he was, wearing as mala in his. ये आप सब क्यों लेके चलते हैं? अरे ये कॉन्फिडेंशियल काम है, ये मैं कैसे किसी को दे सकता हूँ. तो कहा कि मगर कभी तो आपको भी कहीं न जाना होता होगा, तो आप की टीम फिर क्या करती है? नहीं, टीम को मैं इस्तेमाल करता हूँ, लेकिन ऐसी ये सब कॉन्फिडेंशियल चीजें किसी से ट्रस्ट नहीं करता. तो कहने लगे आप तो बड़े रिलैक्स से नजर आ रहे हैं. कहने मेरा तो सारा डेटा टीम के पास. Why should I be bothered with these things? I mean, I have a team which is a trustworthy team and I have full trust in them. So actually sometimes what happens is leaders जो हैं they जो अरुणा ने बहुत सही बात की कि कभी-कभी उसमें उनमें एक एरोगेंस भी है. उन्हें लगता है कि दुनिया का कारोबार चल रहा है तो उनकी वजह से चल रहा है. तो अभी मैं एक उर्दू की किताब पढ़ रहा था, उसमें उन्होंने एक बड़ा खूबसूरत जुमला लिखा कि जो लोग ये समझते हैं कि उनका कोई सब्स्टिट्यूट नहीं है, उन्होंने लफ्ज उर्दू में इसको कहते हैं नेमुल बदल. जो लोग ये समझते हैं कि उनका कोई नेमुल बदल नहीं है, उनके मरने से जो खला पैदा होता है वो 2 गज जमीन में पैदा होता है, और वो भी उनके जिस्म से भर जाता है. दुनिया का कारोबार चलता रहता है. Yes, people come, they contribute, but as they say, ship is more important than the crew. यूनिवर्सिटी चल रही है, सर सैयद के बाद भी चल रही है. Some people pop up, they manage the show, run the show, and when they have finished their inning, they leave. So a leader who starts operating with this mindset that actually he is running the show, ultimately is the loser. Because this realization that there is some, higher power, there is some supernatural power, which is actually is a bigger planner and designer of this world, and I am only a cog in the wheel. I am only a mohra which has been sent for doing a particular role, and I'm playing that role. That's all. So Arma used the very right word. That helps the leader remain grounded. Do you think exercising this kind of leadership is easy?
No, sir,
But
absolutely not.
it can't be easy. Like, if I talk about it in my own personal perspective, then it so sometimes happens that phrases get to my head, and then getting out of it and staying grounded and humble is difficult. And in this case, we are talking about a person who has accomplished quite a lot in his life during his time. So in that case, it can't be easy.
We are not. जो कैलिफ ऑफ इस्लाम है हज़रत अली, उनके बड़े पावरफुल कोट्स होते हैं, लीडरशिप के बहुत से उनके कोट्स हैं। तो एक कोट जो मैंने पढ़ा और मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा, दैट आई वुड लाइक टू शेयर विद यू। ही सेड के, मैं थोड़ा उसकी सिंप्लीफाई करके पेश कर रहा हूँ कि उन्होंने ये कहा कि जो इक़्तिदार है या ताकत है और रिसोर्सेज, वो जब आदमी को हासिल हो जाते हैं तो इंसान बदलता नहीं है, बेनकाब हो जाता है। तो इक़्तिदार और ताकत और रिसोर्सेज हासिल करने पे इंसान बदलता नहीं बल्कि बेनकाब होता है। वही उसका सही टेस्ट होता है, असली टेस्ट होता है। हम लोग समझते हैं कि ऊपर वाला टेस्ट तब लेता है कि जब आप पे मुश्किलें आती हैं। ज़्यादा बड़ा टेस्ट तब होता है जब आपको कुछ दे देता है। और जितना बड़ा ओहदा मिलता है उतना ही बड़ा टेस्ट होता है। So keeping this sanity intact, keeping this sense of equilibrium, that I am here, but I am here for a short period of time. I'll play my role and will go away. बहुत कम लोग हैं जो इस sanity को maintain कर पाते हैं, especially when they are in a position of power.
Sir, we can say that a true leader is one who realizes that the institution is more important than the concerned individual.
Very true. Well, that is why I use that expression, ship is more important than the crew. जिनको ये एहसास रहता है वो अपनी सैनिटी दिमाग की बरकरार रखते हैं। और इसीलिए फिर वही will let us revisit that concept which we have discussed, positional power or personal power. जो लोग बहुत पोजिशनल पावर पे फोकस्ड होते हैं और सोचते हैं कि उसकी मदद से काम होता है, वो जब उस कुर्सी को छोड़ते हैं तो उनकी जिंदगी में खला पैदा होता है। Some of the people after retirement, I have seen, especially bureaucrats, because they are used to that power. Power, as somebody said, is a great aphrodisiac. नशा है। हमारा एक कलीग था जो मजे मतलब ऐसी लाइटर वेन में कहता था कि ये चेयरमैन की कुर्सी इस पे बैठे हैं हम, इसमें 100 बोतल का नशा होता है। تو اس کرسی پہ بیٹھے اور اس نشے سے دور رہے، بہت مشکل تھا. Just give me a time if I can locate something. Maybe I'll share some other day. بڑا پاورفل وہ ہے کہ جاپان میں ایک کسٹم ہے. I think I'll talk about it sometime later. تو جو اقتدار اور پاور کا نشہ ہے اس سے بچ پانا لیڈر کے لیے سب سے مشکل ہے. عام طور سے جو پاور کے انڈیکیشنز ہوتے ہیں کیا ہوتا ہے؟ دیکھیے آپ غور کیجئے کہ ایسا کیوں کیا جاتا ہے پہلے کہ کہیں نہ کہیں کنگ کے لیے بہت بڑی کرسی بنائی جاتی تھی، اس پہ بیٹھتا تھا. اور پروفٹ کی لائف سے ایک واقعہ یہ ہے کہ ہی واز دا ہیڈ آف دا اسٹیٹ. کوئی ان سے ایمیسری ملنے آیا تو وہ اس وقت آرام کر رہے تھے، تو انہوں نے کہا کہ بھائی کہاں ہیں؟ تو وہ ایک بیک یارڈ میں لے گئے، وہاں وہ ایک پیڑ کے نیچے اپنی چٹائی بچھا کے سو رہے تھے. He was not even carrying a pillow. تو وہ اتنا، اور وہ بڑے تام جھام سے آئے تھے، پورے پیرافرنیلیا کے ساتھ آئے تھے کہ وہ اسٹیٹ کو ریپرزینٹ کر رہے ہیں. تو اٹ واز اے شاک فار ہم، اینڈ ہی سیڈ کہ میں سمجھ گیا کہ why this empire is expanding like it. اس مزاج کی ہوگی. In fact, there is about this, another incident from the life of the second caliph. When he was a tall man, 6 feet height, and 6 feet height. And when he was delivering a sermon, there was a lady who got up and he said, I have a question to ask. And he stopped. He said, what is your question? He said کہ آپ جو یہ کرتا پہنے ہیں یہ جو وار بوٹی میں ڈسٹریبیوٹ ہوا تھا سامان، اور جتنا کے حصے میں کپڑا آیا تھا اس سے زیادہ. And حضرت عمر he called his son, said اس کا جواب میں نہیں دوں گا، یہ دے. And he shared کہ میں نے اپنا کپڑا ان کو دے دیا تھا. اس طرح سے ان کا بڑا کرتا ہے. If you feel that you are so answerable to people, so accountable to people, and people have this courage to ask directly in your face difficult questions, that is true ability. We have seen leaders of the converse kind پریس کو نہیں فیس کرنا چاہتے کیونکہ وہاں سوال پوچھے گئے. تو یہاں سے آئی تھنک مجھے لگتا ہے ایک اور ڈسکشن کی ضرورت ہے. وی ول ہیو دا فل فلیجڈ ڈسکشن آن اٹ سم ٹائم لیٹر. لیکن آپ اس پہ سوال پہ ضرور غور کیجیے گا کہ لیڈر اور مینیجر میں کوئی فرق ہوتا ہے. از دیر اے ڈفرنس؟ Okay, that is the next topic we are going to take. Are leaders and managers same, or are they different?
So, sorry to interrupt, but before we start the next topic, actually, quite a few of us have a few queries about the sessional that is going to happen on coming Monday. So, if possible, can you please answer our question?
Well, there is, I think, connectivity issue. Your voice is not reaching us.
So, what I'm saying is that before starting with the next topic, if possible,
Breaking.
can you please?
How one becomes a leader? And how can I think questions regarding the test that we are going to have. Actually, you might have noted that we in the class we are not too much focused on rote learning. Management is a very applied subject, so our focus all through has been that even in the discussion
Sir, you are not
make sure that
audible.
there is this connect with the. I'm not audible.
So your voice
My
is
voice
breaking.
Yes, sir.
not
Voice
not
is
reaching.
breaking.
Yes, sir. Your voice is not clear, sir.
Sir, your voice is breaking.
Yes, sir. Your voice is breaking.
So I was sharing the approach of testing that we shall have in the sectionals that we are going to have. So our focus is ability to not only comprehend the concept but apply it in the real world context. Like for example, if we have discussed planning,
So you are not audible, you're stuck.
I've switched over to another connection. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir. Now you're audible.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So some of you have some questions regarding the upcoming sessional test. So as I was saying that our focus will be not just on rote learning, but your ability to comprehend the concepts that we have discussed and their real world applications. Like for example, if we have discussed the concept of planning, for example, I'm giving you an example, not that it will be there like this. But suppose we have discussed planning. Now, for you, most important question is your own career planning. So if you have learned those concepts and if you are able to use those concepts in developing your own career plan, we would understand that yes, you have actually grasped the concept. So our focus in the testing would be on your assessing your ability to first comprehend and second apply that concept in a real world situation. So that is going to be the focus of our testing.
Sir, will it be a written type of or a viva?
No, it will be a written test.
Okay, sir.
In a
Sir,
particular time,
in case of written test, is it going to be MCQ based or subjective type?
it would be descriptive. There is nothing like
Okay.
subjective. We have a descriptive question, so I want to assess your articulation also.
Sir, time limit?
We would have around 40 minutes earmarked for that,
Okay, sir.
and during that period you will have to write the responses and then upload it on the Google Classroom.
Okay, sir.
In fact, it would be like an open book test. You can have
Yes,
all
sir.
your material with you. I hope we will have 3 questions and one from each unit.
Okay, sir.
Maybe we'll ask you to attempt 2 of them.
So the session will be handwritten or typed?
Handwritten.
Okay, sir.
So keep your pen and paper intact, and then make sure that you have your connectivity, because there will be a particular time frame within which you have to upload.
Yes,
So
sir.
that to ensure.
So we are having this on the 14th, and on that day you're going to take both the classes, na, from 8 to 9:40.
Yes.
Like, okay,
So
okay,
first
okay,
we
sir.
will have the test,
Okay,
and then we will
okay, sir.
have the
Okay,
class.
sir. Okay, sir. Sure.
Any other concern or comment which you have?
So you said
It
that
could
it will
be,
be kind of an open book test. So we are allowed to have our materials with us, right?
yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
All material. But my experience is that if you have not read it, it may be far more difficult to juggle through the material. So keep everything with you, so that maybe some you don't remember a technical term, you want to look at it. That is fine. But my personal experience is that if you consult it too often, it may actually be a distraction to complete it within the given time.
Sir, is there anything as such as word limit?
Yes, there will be word limit. There will be word limit for each question.
Okay, sir. That will be mentioned in the question paper
Yes,
itself.
yes, yes. That's
Also, sir, what is the weightage of this session?
Has it been discussed by Zareen now? I think she must have shared it with you.
No, not
Otherwise,
yet,
we'll
sir.
let you know, because we have up till now 3 assignments done. One was the manager's job project, which you did, and if depending on the time, we may have presentations also on that. So you have done that manager's job project, and then second, all of you are presenting this recap, and then you are submitting the written form of recap also to NAM. So third would be the sessional. So all 3 together will constitute your weightage of 70 marks.
70 marks.
So I think we have already had the 2 assignments, and the marks have been allocated to that. So the remaining marks would be allocated to the written test, which we will be having on 14th.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Any other question? And I will also request you to keep thinking on that issue which I've discussed. What it takes to be a leader, and what does it mean to be a manager. Are these two different roles? And are they mutually exclusive, or they overlap, or what is the situation?
So the first question is what it takes to be a leader, and the second one is
What it takes to be a manager? Are these two roles different, mutually exclusive, or they overlap?
okay, sir.
So a manager is work focused while a leader is people oriented.
Just keep thinking about it,
Okay,
Pratiksha.
sir.
We
Yes,
will have a discussion on it in the next class. So it was just a kind of food for thought that I'm leaving with you.
okay,
All
sir.
of you have got into this MBA program, which is managers. So can we produce leaders also? That is my question. How leaders develop? This is a very worthy question that people have been asking, and still the jury is out. We are not. We don't have a firm answer to this question. How can we develop leaders? Because one comment which has been made about the present day society is that we are overmanaged and underled. Across board, whether it is at the level of vice chancellors of universities or president of nations, they overmanage and they underlead. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you so much. Thank you, sir.